Like Albright said, when you're mixed up in something, you better be mixed up to the top. So that's where I was going. All the way to the top. Everybody was peeing on my head and telling me it was rain. Guess they figured I was some new kind of fool, and maybe I was. Because I was ready to start fighting back. And I believed somehow that I could live through this bad dream I was having about pretty girls and gangsters and standing face to face with the richest man in town.
Hello, and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies, and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Brooklyn Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
Happy February.
Yes.
We are in is this our second episode for Black History Month?
Third.
Our third. Oh, cool. Yeah, because it's kind of like the way, I like when the calendar works out so you get like an extra week in there. We have had so much fun. Yes, it's our third. We did Passing, and we did, the last one was an article. What was it? Oh, The Butler.
Yes, The Butler.
And today I am so excited to talk about Devil in a Blue Dress. I cannot wait. But if you are new, there's some stuff you should know about this podcast. First of all, we're not experts per se. We're not literature majors, or we didn't go to film school, nothing like that. We just like to read a lot, and we write, and we enjoy watching movies. Lots of people always have suggestions for books and movies, which we completely welcome. There's lots of places where you can get us those suggestions and where we can see them. Let's talk about some of the places where you can interact with us and other listeners of this podcast.
Sure. We do have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like that page. You can leave suggestions there. We're a little more interactive in our Facebook group, though, and it's a private group, so you have to type in Book VS Movie Podcast Group in Facebook and ask to join. It's a great place on Facebook because people don't get into arguments. We just talk about books and movies. It's really pretty great. So if that's a nice place to reach out to us, we're on Twitter and Instagram. You spell out book versus a movie. You can send us suggestions there, or you can send us an old-timey email. It's book versus movie podcast, spelled it all out, at gmail.com. If you would like some stickers or magnets, some kind of merch to show your love for book versus movie, send us your address via email and we will drop them in the mail for you.
You know, I was just thinking, our Facebook group is such a nice place. And we've been doing this for about 8 years. And we've had many instances now where we announce that we're doing a book or movie, and somebody in the group will be like, that's my favorite movie, or I love that movie. And we don't love it. And people are so nice about it. Nobody's ever been like, how dare you? Right. People are always so chill and cool about it, right?
Right.
It just occurred to me right now. People are always just so nice about it. I really appreciate that. And if you really enjoy the podcast, you want to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
We are putting all of our episodes from 2019. I'm sorry, now it's 2020, February 2020. And previous to that, they're going up on our Patreon wall. There's over 80 episodes there. We just put up the Shawshank Redemption, which is a super popular episode. Just go to Patreon, Patreon, look up Book VS Movie Podcast. We have a couple of affordable options, and we would totally appreciate it. But you know what? If money's tight, and believe me, we both understand what that means, just leave us a review in iTunes. Or I've just found out, Margot, on Spotify, you could leave a little review. So it's like right next to the podcast on the right, there's like 3 little dots, and you click on it, and you can rate the show. And if you could do that, that'd be great.
That is so cool. I was today years old when I learned that. That's great. And if you are new, you have a whole Google Doc of books and movies that you want to suggest to us. We have a couple of rules, just so you're aware. We have a couple of rules for how we pick books and movies. And we're a little bit lax with the rules insofar as this, since we've been in this pandemic time, we decided to do a brand new episode every single week, which makes it hard to read a giant 500-page tome in a week because we're busy people. So sometimes we do shorter literary sources. We might do a novella or a magazine article like we did last week. We might even do a song or a play. So it really is any literary source. The other thing you should know is that it has to be something that people can easily get their hands on. We don't want to pay $80 a copy for Fast Times at Richmond High just so we can cover it. As much as we would love to,
right?
If you can't get the book, we don't want to get the book. And so we try to get things that are very easy to find that you can get from your local library or get from your local bookseller. And we try to get movies that are also very easy to stream online because a lot of us are still not going out much. So they're also not, so for that reason, it's not something that's going to be brand new either.
Not usually.
Necessarily.
Right.
Sometimes it is, but not usually.
But we don't have it can't be just on DVD or something like that. It has to be something streamable. So just so that way it makes it fair and easy for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. Today, though, we are back to our normal, it's a book, it's a movie. And I've never read this book or seen this movie. I think it came out, I had just gone to college. I didn't even have a TV, you're broke.
Right.
So I didn't read the book either. And I'm so mad that I didn't read the book because I freaking loved it. We're talking about Devil in a Blue Dress.
Our author today is Walter Mosley. He was born January 12th, 1952. He is African and Jewish American. He's biracial, grew up in LA. He just started writing in the 80s. He was working for like Mobil Oil and other people, and he started writing in his downtime. And it just so happens that his first book is Devil in a Blue Dress. It comes out in 1990, and it was a big hit. I didn't read it either. I was in college at the time, so I had all my other writing to do. I didn't get to do a lot of fun reading. This author, by the way, probably can owe a lot of his success because Bill Clinton was a big fan of his, and apparently in all of his interviews when he was first elected, some people call him the first black president. He just seemed like he was a person that seemed very comfortable.
It was another time.
It was another time, we should say.
But that was for real a thing that happened.
Yes, people said it.
As preposterous as it sounds today.
Right. And he's about 14 novels he's written for TV shows. We were just talking off the air. He wrote an op-ed recently. He was on the Star Trek Discovery show, and he used the N-word in description of a scene, and then he was asked not to use it, and so he quit versus getting fired. But this is it's so ironic because this is somebody that we're talking about today who wrote his novel, Devil in a Blue Dress, is very different and very coarse and very realistic. I say it's a tough novel. It's in a good way. I mean, it's harsh. It's a little, this is not
That's gritty.
It's very, that's the better word, the best word, gritty. Because we've talked a lot about film noir, like The Big Easy and all these other movies that we just adore.
Which we love.
Yes.
Yeah. Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler. Although it's written in the late 80s.
Right.
It's totally taking that approach to telling a story about that time, but about an entirely, we have an entirely black cast of characters. I mean, mostly black. There's a few white characters, but all of the protagonists, all of the main characters are black. It is very worthy of that tradition, I feel. Just, again, spoiler alert, we spoil everything,
yes,
including how we feel about things. I loved this book.
I did as well. And race is a big theme in this novel. We've heard what is the movie that I'm thinking of that Kim Basinger won the Oscar for? LA Confidential. That's kind of similar territory, which I also like that too. And we'll definitely cover that one day.
I do too. Oh yeah. Me too. I love that era. Yes. I love that genre. It's great.
Old time Hollywood is always just interesting to me, and LA. And Margot I'm based in New York, and Margot is based in San Diego, and she's Mexican American, and there's a whole culture there with Mexican Americans in LA at the time. The novel is set in 1948, and Easy Rawlins is our character. There was actually a book called Gone Fishing. That's the one he proposed. That's the first book technically about Easy Rawlins. It just wasn't, excuse me. Sorry, everyone, I sneezed. So actually, Easy Rawlins, he first wrote about Easy Rawlins in a book called Gone Fishing. He tried every publisher in the world. Nobody would take it. And then so he reworked the story into Devil in a Blue Dress. It becomes this big hit. Easy Rawlins is a character that he's African American. He is from Houston, kind of a rough and tumble childhood.
Kind of a rough past.
Yes,
yeah.
we get this hint about it.
We get this idea that he's come to California to, like as many people do, to reinvent himself.
First, he does this going World War II. So he's born in 1920, I believe. He serves in World War II. It's also segregated. Those units are segregated. And there's a lot. The story is told with his point of view. And his point of view is very interesting because he's a tough character. And he very nonchalantly says, I've killed people. I've seen stacks of dead Germans, piled on top of one another. I've killed men and women.
Yeah, he has a very interesting because of his war experience,
right?
And again, he sort of hints at this rough past that there was some kind of maybe murder that happened that he was somehow tied up in. Yeah, he goes on about it a lot, as I think you would if you had those life experiences.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think I'd tell everybody.
I would
hey,
too.
Listen.
You think you've had it bad? Let me tell you about my life. He leaves Houston, we think, because of something. We know it's something rough, and his best friend was a guy named Mouse. And they had the same girlfriend. The Mouse wound up marrying her. He goes into the army, and one of the greatest things about America in the mid-century was if you served in the war, if you served in the armed forces, there was the
GI Bill.
Thank you. You would get a low interest loan on your home. You could get an education at a college. You could go to acting school, which is what Sidney Poitier did. It was any kind of technical school you wanted to go to. And it was a way to help build the middle class. America, very racist still. If some people got better rates than others and got better opportunities than others, there's a whole thing we could talk about when it comes to that. But so he talks quite a bit about having his own home and a mortgage. He is very, very proud of the fact that he has a home. It's a
huge deal. It's a huge deal for anybody in those days.
I don't.
And no, nor do I. It's something like right away we establish that a couple of things. So it's after the war. It's not long after the war. It's like 1948, I think. Mm-hmm. And he has just been laid off. He was working in sort of like a defense, like an aviation sort of a factory plant. And he's just been laid off kind of for no good reason. And that's a real problem because he has a mortgage. And I really love the passages where he goes on about owning a home and like what it means to him. And it's really touching. It's really great.
It gives him a lot of pride. It makes him feel good. I mean, he also is very peripatetic when you're in the war and then just the life he had before that. He had to move around a lot. He likes having his own space. He talks about it quite a bit. So he's fired by an Italian person, and who's very dark skinned, but they're constantly letting you know about skin tones and how people are treated. It's very, very important to this discussion. And a white man enters this black bar. And I love the description of the linen suit, the tan suit with the straw hat.
The writing is so good.
The writing's excellent. Phenomenal. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his first novel. It's just fantastic. And it's a man named DeWitt Albright who's offering him $100. Find this girl. It's somebody's girlfriend, and they need to find her. And I can't look for this man is white, by the way, DeWitt. He's I can't go because she goes to black bars and jazz clubs. She's a white girl and they say in the novel, she's got blonde hair. And
in the novel, she is blonde, and I think she has blue eyes, green eyes or something. Yeah.
That's why she always wears a blue dress, because it shows off her features. But she goes to all the black clubs. She likes that music. It's dangerous for a white man to go into those places. It's a lot. So Easy also talks a lot about how he can't just walk in the street at night. There's certain neighborhoods he can't go to because he'll be roughed up by the police or he'll be jumped. And he is jumped by a group of white teenagers at one point. So there's all this talk about navigating L.A. He has a love interest. He's looking for the woman's name they say is Daphne. And
yes,
and he has a love interest with Coretta. She's a woman that he's attracted to, and she's good friends with she's the girlfriend of his friend Dupree. And then
yes,
he and Dupree, they all get really drunk, and they take him home, and then Dupree falls asleep, and then Coretta and Easy have sex all night.
Get it on.
They get it on. It's
In the
a lot
next
of sex
room.
in the novel too, or there's a lot of mentioning.
There's a lot of sex. Way more sex in the novel than there is in the movie.
Yes. They get on in the extra room, and there's a lot of like having an extra room to get it on in is like a great thing. Like there's just like a lot of talking about that. Anyway, she winds up dead the next day, and he's a suspect in her murder. There's different people that what we find out is that Daphne is somebody that she's very coquettish, and she's different around different people, and she's constantly shifting her personality. So sometimes she acts very demure, and then sometimes she's sexually very aggressive. Sometimes she's just sort of, when she's having sex with him, it's sort of like very robotic almost, like she's just doing it, and you kind of wondering what her deal is. There's a lot of names and places and stuff. I mean, basically what's going on is that so speaking of passing, she passes for white even though she's half black.
Yeah, so she supposedly, so she has this white, okay, what we're led to believe is that she has this very powerful, we're led to believe, one, that she's white. Mm-hmm. Two, that she is the girlfriend of this very, very powerful politician that possibly because of her wild ways, they can't get married, they can't be together, but he's trying to find her. And in the course of trying to find her, so Easy is not a detective when the story begins. He's laid off. He's desperately trying to make his mortgage, and he doesn't have any other options, and so he's taken this job to find this woman. We're also led to believe that she sort of has a boyfriend, this black gangster whose nickname is Knife Hand.
Yes.
You want to meet a guy named Knife Hand.
The nicknames are great here.
The nicknames are awesome. Anyway, so eventually she just calls him and is like, hey, it's me.
Yeah.
Let's get together.
In the book, she uses a French accent because she has the Monet. And then when she goes up and meets him, she has a Southern accent. Cool. Yeah, she's always playing
she's
a game.
Chameleon kind of a figure, and you're like, what is this girl's deal? Yeah, she's different with each person that she's with, and she just has a way with men. And in the book, there's a lot of differences between the book and the movie that just really nice story elements that just for time's sake, I'm sure they took it out. We learn at one point, Easy and Daphne spend like a day and a half, right? In the house of a friend of his, just
getting
sleeping in every corner of that house and getting it on all over the house.
Like
it is
newlyweds. Like newlyweds christening a new home. Yeah.
Seriously. And in the course of that, she is telling him that she's in love with him, but you already know that she's somebody who is not to be trusted. She's obviously very clever, got a lot of schemes going. Does she mean that she loves him? Probably not. She tells him this story about, trigger warning. She tells him the story about her father, with whom she had an incestuous relationship. And then she says that the family left. He left the family eventually because of that, because he was so overcome with guilt. And that's what she tells Easy at that point. So she's somebody who, she never has a straight story. She's all over the place. You just don't know what she's going to say, and she can't be trusted with anything. But it turns out that, and I can't remember this, the plot line's a little bit different in the book than in the movie. I think in the book that it's her boyfriend, the politician boyfriend, who is the one who has the little boy.
Yeah,
right?
Well,
Isn't it actually him?
There's a politician that's running for mayor. There's two different people running for mayor, and the one that's like ahead in the polls and everything like that, is a real creep, and he takes in little Mexican boys as his lover. I mean, buys them, and they're being trafficked. Tells people that they're totally being trafficked, and he tells people that they're his adopted children. Yeah, it's really messed up. So her name is actually Ruby. It turns out that she took some money from her boyfriend, $30,000, so she could leave LA and start a new life.
Nothing.
Which is not nothing for 1948. That's some good starting out money there. And his friend Mouse leaves Houston and comes to LA to help him out, easy out. And Mouse will just kill a person as soon as looking at them. And so
Yeah, he's a hothead.
Yes. And he likes him because, they're friends. They've known each other forever, and he's got his back and he could trust him. But he also is has to be very specific at telling Mouse, don't kill this guy.
Do not kill this man.
No, we need him later.
Just sit here with him. See if you can sit here with him without shooting him. Can you do that?
Yeah. Can you get the information without actually killing this guy? And Mouse is just sort of this very hyper character. It gets a little complicated. I mean, the police are involved, and she's blackmailing to get photos, and the men want the money, and Mouse. And in the end, they all kind of split up the money, and it's like 10 grand a piece. Mouse leaves, and Ruby leaves to go to someplace else, and it ends Rawlins be able to paying off his mortgage, and then he could just start a new life. So he says, I'm going to be a private detective. And he figures out in the course of this, which I really like, in the course of this, because he stumbles into this, as we said, he's not a detective. He doesn't want to be a detective. He's taking money from a guy to find a woman because he desperately needs the money. And in the course of his misadventures and all the subterfuge, and he figures out wow, I'm actually pretty smart at this. I can read these people, and I'm pretty good at finding I actually put the pieces together, and I figured it out, and hey, I might be able to go into business for myself with this, which is a fun arc for him as a reader. You're watching him gradually get smarter and smarter. When he first starts out, anybody he comes across, he's so gullible. He's no. But by the end, he is the smartest guy in the room. And you're yeah, you should be a detective. You're really rooting for him. It's great. Brilliant. He pays off the mortgage, and then he puts some of his money in jars that he buries in his backyard. It's all about the house. It's all about the mortgage, all about the house, having his own place, his own property. That's his serenity. When the bad guys come in to kind of shake him up, and they're in his house using his crap, it makes him crazy, like it would for anybody. But that's the story. And in this novel, there's lots of little changes that happen. But in the novel, it seems like everybody knows each other, whereas in the movie, we're constantly. We'll get into that.
Yes, that's true. In the book, he pretty much has at least a passing acquaintance with everyone that he comes into contact with while he's trying to find this woman. Another thing, there were a lot of things I really loved about the book. Just the writing was so phenomenal. But one thing I really loved, and I know that he had to have, of course he did this on purpose, but anytime he mentioned a location, I went and looked it up on Google Earth, and every location that he mentioned in Los Angeles is a location where the 1940s era architecture is still there, is still intact. So, you go on Google Earth and you look up each one of those addresses and you kind of do the little look around. It looks like it would have looked in 1948, which is so cool.
That's so cool.
It's really neat. And I did also really love the way that he talked about the relationships between blacks and Mexicans, because in 1948, 1947 was when California, at least legally, desegregated our school system. Although segregation continues in a de facto way, and many lawsuits have been won in our history. But what was interesting about that was that the blacks and the Mexicans were often segregated together away from the whites. And so there was a camaraderie there that doesn't quite exist in the same way today. It's a little more divided, or a little more siloed, I guess is what we would say today. But I thought that was really great that he touched on that, and that it's a part of the story, and that in the end, again, spoiler alert, the very, very, very end, the last thing that Daphne says to Easy is to go and rescue this poor little boy who's being victimized and abused, this little Mexican boy, and which he does. He goes and rescues the boy. He has a good Mexican friend, and they get together and they place the boy in a kind of a good foster home sort of a situation. And so I really liked that element, because it is a very Los Angeles, Southern California part of the culture of that time, which doesn't get written about very much.
I was really shocked, and you probably do know this, being Mexican American and being from Southern California, but I remember a song called Zoot Suit Riot. And I thought it was like very catchy. And then I looked up what the Zoot Suit Riot was. I'm like, holy shit, this is like...
It was very serious.
Horrifying.
And it wasn't just, I mean, it was most notably in Los Angeles, like that one in particular. And look it up if you guys haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
It's it's an important part of our history. And, but it also is something that kind of, it initiated that kind of rioting or police harassment of Mexican Americans in these like sweeping, they would just go and arrest you because of how you were dressed. I have a family member who was arrested on such grounds at that time. I think it might have been in 1948 now that I'm thinking about it. It was around the war. It was a big cultural thing that happened. And I would say definitely you can see kind of aftershocks of that in the culture here in California, even now. There's like a generational impact of that. Really cool stuff. And I really he wrote about it so well and just kind of very naturally folded it into the story in a way that it doesn't feel tacked on. Really, really smart writing, really great.
And it does really, really well. A couple of years later, Bill Clinton is elected president, and Walter Mosley had been trying to sell the story to movie studios because he wanted to make a career as a writer. He didn't want to get a job. He didn't want to work for Mobile anymore. And having the president of the United States say, hey, this is like my favorite author, all of a sudden Hollywood's like, well, what books do we have? And I honestly think there should be an Easy Rawlins show. Like there's a dozen
Why is
novels
it not an HBO series? Why?
or Hulu or
That's
Amazon?
such a great character.
He's such a fascinating person, and you film it in LA, and there's just so much there. So let's do this. We'll have a little commercial break. We'll play the trailer, and then we'll talk about the 1995 version starring Denzel Washington.
Ezekial Rawlins, L.A. was a world of sunshine and shadows.
Hey, Easy, how you doing, baby? Junior, take Easy on upstairs.
Black and white.
We got no work here. Sorry, fella. My name's not fella. My name is Ezekial Rawlins.
So here you need a job.
What kind of work you do?
I'm just looking for somebody. Daphne Monet, fiance of Todd Carter. She's been gone 2 weeks. See, Daphne has a predilection for the company of Negroes.
He thought he knew how to play the game.
Any of y'all seen a white girl by the name of Dahlia, Delia, something like that?
My name is Daphne. You can't get none of that tonight.
You know her?
Until he stepped into a world
Why don't you tell me about your friend Daphne?
Colored woman ain't good enough for you no more, Hines.
where there are no rules.
Why are you arresting me?
What time did you leave Greta James' house this morning?
What is going on?
She's not going to be waking up, Ezekiel.
He's looking for a woman no one wants found.
Was there anyone with you, a young lady named Daphne Monet, perhaps?
The incumbent mayor, the chief of police, close personal friends of mine.
Then they can help us find her.
No, they can't.
And getting in deeper than he ever expected.
This is Daphne Monet. You're looking for me. I don't know if I should think of you as a friend or as a private dick.
Surrounded by lies.
You can trust me, Mr. Rawlins. I am the next mayor, and luckily for you, a friend of the Negro.
Seduced by power.
Unless I get the cops a killer by tomorrow morning, I'm going to jail.
Easy Rawlins is searching.
Not very smart talking about Mr. Carter's business.
There's too much going on for me to give a damn about what you think is smart.
For the truth.
Who killed her?
I don't know.
Don't lie to me! Start up my car, keep it hot, I'm coming out fast. Let's go! Get her. No, don't shoot him. We going to the police. Yeah, why don't you scream, huh?
From the Academy Award-winning producers of Philadelphia and The Silence of the Lambs, Academy Award winner Denzel Washington, Devil in a Blue Dress, a Carl Franklin film.
TriStar Pictures picks up this. That sounds so 90s, isn't it? TriStar Pictures like doesn't exist anymore.
I know. Like I saw the horse and I was like, oh yeah, these guys.
These guys used to put out really cool movies. Carl Franklin he's an actor and then became a director. He also works with Jonathan Demme quite a bit. The cinematographer is Tak Fujimoto, who worked with Jonathan Demme on Silence of the Lambs. So there's a lot of that same intense close-ups and it's just this gorgeous movie. I mean, Mosely tried to write the screenplay and then he's like, I need to learn how to do this. So Carl Franklin takes it over and we have Denzel Washington. So they take down the sex quite a bit. There's
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like tons.
Yeah. It's
very tame.
It's a lot tamer.
It's almost like a made for TV
yeah.
kind of level of.
But we have Denzel Washington as Easy Rawlins, and he's so beautiful. He's so.
It's so. What I love. This is such a performance. It's such a great performance, and by then Denzel Washington is a
big star,
major movie star. Yeah, and we talked about. What was the one about the gangster, American Gangster?
Yes, American Gangster.
So in kind of a similar way, although this is a good guy, he's not a criminal, but I really like his performance of again starting out as this naive, just desperate to keep his house, and getting smarter and by the end he sees through everything. He knows what's up. He's not worried about his house anymore. He knows it's going to be okay. He knows he can rely on his wits. What a performance.
Now,
great cast.
Do you know those neighborhoods in LA, like Watts, and
yes,
where they have and is it similar now, like in the looks and everything? It looks beautiful.
Actually, you can fully go around that neighborhood and it will look like that movie. Even now, there's lots of places, even in Watts itself. The only thing that I thought was a little bit of which you can allow a little bit of there's no way this is in the 40s, is the palm trees.
Okay.
Are enormous. They're obviously, they're 40, 50 years older than they were when they were when they were planted, or more than that. I think they're planted in the early 40s or in the 30s even. So they would have been much like little spindly little things, not these massive 2 feet across.
I saw that and I'm like, everybody should move to LA. Every time I see palm trees
it's
like
gorgeous.
that, I'm just like, every time I'm in LA, I'm always freaked out by
my
them.
Neighborhood.
Ugh.
Yeah,
they're just so great.
They're fun. But that's the only thing. But yeah, it does still look like that a lot, I think. I feel.
I love that architecture. I just find it.
Me too.
Beautiful and very homey. Mm-hmm. And we have Tom
His
Sizemore.
house.
Oh, his house is great.
Can we just talk about his house for a minute?
Yes.
I love that house.
Me too.
It's so cool. It's a little bungalow and they've restored it. It is immaculately restored. It is beautiful.
He takes good care
I don't know where
of
that
it.
house is. I hope it's a real house somewhere.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
you immediately go this guy takes some serious care. Look how clean his windows are. Who is he really cares about this house? The yard is all done. I love this. There's this character in the movie that is not in the book at all, of this neighborhood wackadoo kind of guy who just wants to chop all the trees down in the neighborhood.
And he has to chase
so
him away.
cute.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just such a nice touch.
Yeah, that does happen though. You have your town kook, somebody who just does a thing and everybody has to look out for each other. Tom Sizemore is our DeWitt Albright. I forgot how this is 25 years ago. This is my first move to New York. This is 1995. Don Cheadle, this is one of his first big movie parts as Mouse.
Don Cheadle, who I think up to this point had been known for Golden Palace, the sequel to the Golden Girls spinoff.
And Picket Fences.
Not to say that he was bad in it.
No.
Cheech Marin was on it. It's not a bad show. But this is this is a Don Cheadle caliber performance. It is brilliant.
Where's Daphne Monet, Frank? All right, maybe you don't know where she is, but hey, we can help each other find her, man.
You heard him.
Mouse, no!
Hollis resident. Nah, he busy right now. You're gonna have to call back.
Look, a rich man is willing to pay $1,000 just to talk to this girl. $1,000, that's a hell of a lot of money, man. Frank.
Wait a minute. Let me try. Now look here, Frank. It's Frank, right?
Yeah.
Frank?
What the hell are you? You ain't going right now. Damn it!
What the hell is wrong with you, man? Don't you ever grab me when I got a gun in my hand. You got blood on my coat, Easy. It's a damn expensive coat.
Where's your bathroom at, man? Is it in there?
Like, he is just electric in this movie. The moment he shows up, you're like, yeah, he's so great.
He was nominated for an LA Times Film Critics Award. Jennifer Beals plays Daphne Monet.
Breathtaking.
She's so
breathtaking.
Pretty.
She's just
beautiful.
I love her. And she's really, she does this character really well because although she doesn't look at all like the character in the book is described, what she does do, which is I think the more difficult thing, she really captures that, like, I am a total sphinx. I am telling you what you want to hear. Don't think you're going to be able to read me. You're dazzled by my beauty, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And, you know, nobody knows what's going on in my mind, and I'm playing everybody in this whole thing. It's really, like, you can't not look at her. She's so pretty.
It's so funny though, because I put in the Facebook group, I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It's the LA Times did an article, I guess when they were time of the filming, and everybody's saying there's this big secret that's from the book that we can't tell you it is. You got to see the movie to find. There's like adorable 1995 internet, like people couldn't find this out. It's pretty, yeah. But she, in her life, her father's African American and her mother is Irish American, so she knows what it's like to kind of be biracial. And we have Maury Chaykin as Mr. Terrell. He's known as Terrell in the movie. He's running for mayor and he's a creep.
Oh, he's so creepy. Ugh. Great casting.
Yes.
So good.
Mel Winkler as Joppy, and Joppy is the guy that runs the bar that we first.
Another great choice. Yeah, because he's and this is in the book too, that Joppy is the bartender who first connects Easy with this guy who's paying him to find the woman. And this, it's established over and over again that they are very good friends. He looks to Joppy as kind of like a mentor almost. You know, he's an older gentleman and somebody who he really trusts, that, you know, he has Easy's best interests at heart. And then you find out that Joppy, I mean, again, spoiler alert.
Yes.
In the book and the movie, Joppy basically is framing Easy for murder while pretending to be his friend, among other betrayals. He really, really screws this guy over, and it really hurts him.
Yeah. We also have Terry Kinney as Todd Carter. So he's the one that's in love with Daphne.
You say someone's looking for her.
Yeah.
Someone's looking for her.
Look, Mr. Carter, it's nothing personal, but what's going on between y'all?
Nothing. We were going to get married, and we had a fight, and it is really none of your concern, Mr. Rawlins. So someone's after her. Mr. Albright. And he says I'm his employee.
You ever heard of a fella named Richard McGee?
Who?
Look, why would somebody be after her?
Rawlins, do you think you can find her again? It's important. For her sake. I'm willing to pay you.
Well, why'd she leave in the first place?
It's really none of your concern, Mr. Rawlins, but I am willing to pay you to find her.
Okay. Okay. $1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, I'll take 200 right now.
You know what? I think you're trying to take advantage of me. Let me inform you of something. The incumbent mayor, the chief of police, close personal friends of mine. They eat at my house regularly, and my father's house.
That's good, Mr. Carter, and they can help us find her.
No, they can't. I'll have Baxter write you out a check.
Mr. Carter, why you stop running for mayor?
I'll have Baxter write you a check.
All right, why is Matthew Terrell looking for Daphne, too?
Baxter will write you a check.
I'll take care.
Here, take it all. Just take it all.
I'll be in touch, Mr. Carter.
And there's that whole, they set up that whole thing like he really wants to marry her, but his family won't let him because she's tarnished in some way. And they made him, in the book he's much older. Here he's much closer to her actual age, so you could kind of see like, yeah, they probably,
which I liked.
Yes, I did
that was
too.
nice.
It made more sense. Joseph Lattimore is Frank Green. Lisa Nicole Carson is Coretta James, and she was in a bunch of stuff on TV.
Oh, she was everywhere.
Oh
yeah.
God. She's really good.
She's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really, really strong cast. It's beautifully filmed. There are some differences here. They take away there's not as much N-word dropping. There's not as much
There's
sex.
a lot in the book, but it doesn't seem like, again, it's not sensationalized in any way. It's
right.
very, you just assume like, yeah, that's how people
would talk.
You know, when you get picked up get dragged in by the police, you're probably going to hear that word.
You're going to get roughed up, and you're going to, that's what's going to happen. I mean, it's a little complicated, this plot. I mean, she comes in and she doesn't have a French accent. I think I like her very much, Jennifer Beals very much. You know, I'm a Flashdance girl. She's one of my pop culture icons. I think they probably could have done more with her. I feel like
I agree.
They kind of rely on her prettiness kind of taking over, and they don't really give her much to say. Whereas Daphne / Ruby in the book was a little more cunning.
You know, I paid $7,000 for those pictures. They belong to me.
Matthew Terrell might have something to say about that.
All right, then I'll pay you for them. I'll give you $1,000.
You gave Richard McGee $7.
And I'll give you $7.
Damn, what does Terrell have on you, girl?
Nothing. You want the money or not?
No. No, I got 2 murders hanging over my head. Unless I give the cops a killer by tomorrow morning, I'm going to jail. Now, who killed Coretta?
I don't know.
It was because of them pictures she was killed, or wasn't it?
I don't know.
Your boyfriend, Frank Green, killed her to bring you them pictures, didn't he?
Of course not.
Yeah, well, you can tell it to the police, because I ain't taking a rap.
Easy, put the phone down. Put the phone down. Put the phone down. Easy.
So it was Frank, wasn't
He
it?
had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, sure he did. I knew there was more between y'all than just some backdoor romance. He probably pimped you out to court in the first place. We going to the police.
No.
Come on.
No.
Yeah, why don't you scream, huh? So I can tell the police about your boyfriend, Frank Green.
Frank is my brother.
What?
I think they kind of just
That's true.
They didn't really do as much with her. There's a man running for mayor who's sex trafficking kids. He has all this paraphernalia and however you want to describe it, it's child abuse materials, and that's what these photographs are. And she wants to frame him and make sure that he's exposed so he doesn't become mayor. And there's stabbings and there's shootings, and Don Cheadle steals every scene he's in. Like he just takes it, puts it on his back
just
and
sitting
runs.
there.
Yeah. It's just I really enjoyed it. I thought I really liked it very much. I actually bought it. It's only $4.99 on Apple. So I was like, oh, I'll definitely watch this again. I think for me, book versus movie, I would give it to the book. I think the movie.
I would too.
Yeah.
But what you were going to say? Why?
I think it's just missing some of the parts that were juicier in the original. I think they made it just a little too tame, and they didn't kind of go for it. I think it's more that could have been said about race. I think more could have been done with the Daphne character. I think the plot is kind of a little doesn't make as much sense. They just moved things around, and I don't think make as much sense.
Yeah, I agree on all points. Although I have to keep reminding myself it's 1995.
Right.
We're still in a kind of Driving Miss Daisy worldview.
Isn't this before LA Confidential? It's like a couple of years before that. Yeah.
I think it is. I agree. Like because the book, And like especially the end, the end when he goes out, when Easy and Mouse go out to this remote cabin where Daphne has been taken. Like it's super violent, and just because of this, a lot of the stuff that got toned down for the movie, the stakes are higher. That he is in more jeopardy in the book than he is in the movie. So you're a little bit more like when he's in the movie, when he's coming up on the cabin and he's looking through the windows and he sees that they've got her there. Like in the book, like that's a really grisly scene. Like she's really being really abused. Yeah. And in the book, you get the sense like, oh my gosh, if they see Easy at all, like he is a dead man. Whereas I kind of didn't feel that way when he's creeping around the cabin in the movie. You're like, just go in. Like they're not even doing anything. Just go in. Like what's stopping you?
He gets beaten up more in the book than he does in the movie.
Oh, way more. Way more. And again, each time he's a little smarter.
Yeah.
And which is it's part of that whole journey. But having, I think under the circumstances, it's the mid 90s in American cinema. I think they pushed it as far as they probably would have been allowed to push it under the circumstances. If they were doing it today, I think it would be very different. It should be a series. It should be a series. It's great, but I agree that the book is better. I was reading the book, and like even after the first chapter, I was like, I can't wait to see this movie. I know. Was so in.
Bologna gets stuck in my molar.
I get that with popcorn.
Give me some whiskey, Easy.
Liquor's in the cabinet. You get it your damn self.
He's got balls. You gotta give him that.
Shoot him. I'm just kidding. You're a brave man. You need a brave man working for me. You're doing a nice job, too, but... Hey, whiskey, man. You gotta find Frank Green so he can lead us to her.
No, thank you. Too many people getting killed up around me already.
Thanks. Easy. You're connectable to 2 murders. You're gonna do whatever I tell you to do. You find him. I will be checking in. That's some cheap shit. Let's go. Come on.
We should also say that I got I listened to it on audiobook, and Michael Boatman.
How was that?
It was great.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, Michael Boatman did it. And I never realized this, but, you got me onto the Libby app, the library apps. You can get audiobooks from the library, from the Libby app. You can, and I got the book off the Libby app. I mean, it's super easy to get. It's 200 pages. It goes by really quickly. It's a quick read.
It is a very quick read. I agree. Yeah.
And it's an interesting story. And the movie looks beautiful. And like I said, the cinematography is great. I think it's Elmer Bernstein on the soundtrack. I mean, it sounds great. It looks great. I think.
Yeah, I thought the music was good.
Yeah.
A lot of good choices. Really, very. Yeah. I mean, but all because that cast is so stellar.
Exactly.
It's a bonus that all the other stuff is so awesome.
I think when there were lines that I really liked, or I laughed, or I really was paying attention, it's because it was lifted directly from the book. The source material, it's all there, and that's where they did it.
The book has a lot more about Frank. Mm-hmm. And in the book, the reveal about Daphne is totally different, and I think way better.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't do it that way. I thought it would have been really, maybe they just didn't want to give Don Cheadle too much to do.
Because he was doing everything. I don't know. It's kind of odd. Like she says, no, he was my brother. And he kind of goes, oh. It's like it's a little bit of, like I said, like Jennifer Beals, I would have liked a little bit more. Apparently, they did do that whole thing where they go off for they were going to I don't know if they filmed it or they were going to film it, but it was going to be a big sex scene between her and Denzel Washington. It could be Denzel Washington not wanting to do it. I mean, he had enough power to say, "Yeah, I won't do that." I mean, who knows? Yeah. I just think that I think it's definitely see it if you haven't seen this before.
Oh, it's a great movie.
If you like Denzel Washington, especially if you're a Don Cheadle fan, you're going to love it. It's the cinematography is beautiful. The costumes are great. They seem really on point. He makes these, like somebody was saying in one of the articles, like Denzel Washington makes a very cheap suit look so amazing because he's a movie star.
You can tell it's a cheap suit, but yeah, I know. I agree. I really love he did a really good job of, again, capturing the arc, because that's a difficult arc to go from being a naive, a good guy. He's a good guy, but he's not a worldly guy, right? Even though he went and fought in the war. And he's super naive. And to go from that to being like the ace detective who sees through everybody, his whole kind of demeanor changes as the movie progresses. It's a really cool performance, and that's something that's in the book. Mm-hmm. And I think he physicalized, that's a word. He embodied that really effectively. I loved it. It's really fun to see.
The other books apparently take place in the 50s and the 60s, so he's not up into the 70s yet. But yeah, I think like if somebody's, because they're saying nowadays, like the studios, everyone's just buying stuff that already exists. They're just going to buy books that are already there or characters that people know. That's what they're investing their money in. And I think this would be a perfect opportunity. I think it would be a great series.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I want to see it too. Yeah. So for me, it's going to be book.
I agree. The book is outstanding. It is super fun, very entertaining. I think, as you listeners are planning your, if we didn't spoil it too much for you, as you're planning your summer reading list, this is a great, read it by the poolside kind of a book.
So what are we doing next?
I've forgotten.
Well, I'm bringing up our list. So we have one more week left, and it depends what kind of time we have. There is on HBO Max movie that's based on a Washingtonian magazine article, like Something the Lord Made. Alan Rickman. It was made for HBO. It's 2004. It's about a heart surgeon and his assistant, and the heart surgeon is Alan Rickman, and his assistant is Yazin Bey, and it's a white man and a black man, and they're developing this heart surgery equipment. They're pioneers in like the 1940s. They come up with this new bypass surgery. And then because of the Jim Crow laws, the black man didn't get as much attention as the white man. And then it was, anyway. So
I've never heard of it.
I've never heard of it, but it's got really good ratings. Gabrielle Union's in there, Kira Sedgwick. I always like her. Charles Dutton, Mary Stuart Masterson.
There we go.
Sorry, my internet went out. We'll have to go quick here. So we'll do Henrietta Lacks maybe next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. I'll just have to wait another year.
Thank you all so much for listening to the show. Please send us your suggestions. We are doing musicals in March. We have AAPI month in May. We're doing banned books in September. We love summer novels and blockbusters, if you could think of those for us. So those are some things that are coming up. We would love your suggestions. Or believe me, we have all year now to do this. So whatever suggestions you have, please send them via social media. And Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all of my social media callouts are at She's Not Your Mama. And where can they find you?
You could find me on social media at Brooklyn Fit Chick, mostly for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com. We will be back soon with a new episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Book versus Movie podcast. We are a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcasts. We follow the hashtags LadyPodSquad and Podern Family. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, go to Patreon, and look for Book versus Movie Podcast. We have a basic Facebook page, but we also have a private Facebook group. Go to Facebook and type in Book vs. Movie Podcast group if you want to join that. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Book versus Movie. Spell all those words out. If you'd like to send us an email, it's Book versus Movie Podcast, spell that all out, at gmail.com. You can follow Margot D at Brooklyn Fit Chick on social media, and Margot P at She's Nacho Mama. Thanks so much again for checking out our show, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.
She sets my soul on fire when she rang my